So what's the right amount of water for your EDC bag? Folks, welcome to the channel, and in this case, talking of course about a crucial topic, survival, water. Yes, absolutely. The rule of 3 tells us that you cannot live 3 minutes without air, 3 hours exposed to extreme weather conditions, 3 days without water. And water is tricky. There's not an exact number of how long can I really survive without water. It will depend on your body type, your composition, how much exercise you're doing or not, the weather, what conditions are you in. There's been people that have died because of lack of water in a matter of hours, maybe taking a trip to the desert, walking, getting lost, not knowing exactly where they are, a lot of sun, and they collapse and die in a matter of hours. It could go back to this 3 hours of exposure time, but water definitely plays a big role. And there's been people that have survived for, I think the record is about 2 weeks. A healthy 18-year-old that was locked in a dungeon, and cops forgot about him. I think it was in Austria or somewhere there. And yeah, 2 weeks later, the guy was found barely alive. Dark, more humidity. Maybe he was, leaking the moisture out of the walls. Anyway, it's not exactly known how much you can. There's no fixed number because all of these conditions will change drastically how much you can survive or not. But we do know that without water, you'll become desperate pretty soon. Maybe one of the more telling aspects of this is during natural disasters, like the earthquake in Chile a few years ago. The grid went down and there was no water. We just take it for granted. We just assume that you have your faucet, you can just buy. Typical. You're walking and I'm feeling a little bit thirsty. I'll go buy a bottle of water or something to drink. An energy drink, which is crap, but you get what I'm going for here. You have access immediate to it. When that's not the case, people start thinking about how thirsty they are, and they will become desperate in a matter of hours if they don't have water. In the case of Chile, if I remember, there were instances in which even people got killed over access to water, over bottles of water. Some people say it wasn't that much, and others say it was. But we know that when these things happen, people become quite desperate. And there's also the misconception of, but it's a flood, it's a tsunami. Well, a flood will still compromise pretty much all of the water that's accessible to you unless it's bottled, right? Because it's contaminated. You cannot just go drinking water from in the middle of a flood. It's pretty much poisons. You will catch every given disease known to man. It is very contaminated. You just have to go for bottled water. So having some is crucial for survival, but not only that, it's necessary for your day-to-day routines. You just drink water all the time. And that's where you probably go with something like this. I like steel. Yeah, you have the plastic bottles, but the more I learn about the problems with micro particles of plastic and how that affects, I'm leaning even more towards stainless steel, and I have a bunch of stainless steel bottles. And I've been using these over the years for a while now. And given the research that I've done, again, also over a longer period of time, and some of the personal experience you reach certain conclusions. And basically goes down to this. Unless you are doing something like trekking through the desert where you probably need several liters of water because you're just losing water almost as fast as you're chugging it into your body, right? Unless you're talking about something like that, then some of these bottles will probably cover your needs. So for example, long trip to Rome, right? Walking in Rome all day long, very hot weather, not in the middle of summer, still warm enough. Something like this gets the job done for me. At least it did. And I've gone there a couple of times. I walked quite a bit with my kids. We were walking like 30 kilometers a day. 30 kilometers, that's a lot. 30 kilometers is what, like 20 something miles a day, right? So we were walking quite a bit, sightseeing, but still moving, walking. If you're going through uneven terrain, if you're going backpacking, more of an excursion in a more wilderness setting, then you probably want to have, at the very least, a couple liters. You're talking about a larger backpack. You're talking about planning how much water you take and planning where you're going to be refilling your waters. I came across several years ago when doing a bicycle trek in the Seven Lakes route in Patagonia, came across a couple female backpackers. They were just dying of thirst. They were really dehydrated because even though the trail was called 7 Lakes, access to those 7 lakes was not immediate. And in the middle of summer, very warm temperatures, and walking long distances and losing a lot of water, yeah, they were almost kind of like becoming desperate when I found them. And I had enough water to share with them and told them, you know what, you can refill over there, and kind of sort them out. But with something that's maybe not at extreme, let's say you're walking, you're doing running errands all day, or just go visit, or just someone that walks quite a bit more than the average person. For someone like that, unless you're walking all day long and you need to have a bottle and maybe refill it once or twice, depending. Yeah, I think I've gone days where I didn't refill it even once, maybe just walking at a slower pace and not having to drink that much. And there's been times in which I would refill it at any time. And it also has to be said, I probably could have gone with drinking half as much all day. Wouldn't have been the most pleasant thing, but it wouldn't have been like complicated in terms of even suffering headaches or dehydrating in any serious way. Especially when in a city like Rome, you're gonna be refilling because there are fountains which are quite nice and very well, nice historic places that have been there for thousands of years, right? Well, that's pretty cool, but you don't need as much if you're not exposing yourself to a lot of sun and really exercising rather than just walking at a comfortable pace. If that's the case, even a smaller water like this one, these are from IKEA, half a liter bottle, 500 milliliters. This is a decent chunk of water, right? This will cover most of your daily needs. And when you look at some of the, what if it's an emergency? Well, an emergency as if what? You get a cut and you try to clean a little bit of your wound before patching it up with your first aid kit. You saw during the Twin Towers collapse and how people were with their faces covered with dust and debris from the collapsed buildings, and they were rushing into stores and washing their faces and drinking water to clear their throats, which were full of dust, right? That is a legit thing. Now, how often does that happen? Well, maybe not all that much, but I think that given that it may be the case that you may need it during an emergency, and given how crucial it is for you staying alive, having water, and how practical it is for your daily takes and your daily life, yeah, you will want to have some. How small can you go? Well, I use this one. This is the smallest bottle I've had in a while. I had this one. I honestly don't take this. These are 7 ounces, 200 milliliters. It is a little bit of water, and if I had to go with a very small pack, this is something I've carried before. Not a whole lot, because to be honest, I'm a little bit self-conscious. You do look like a damn drunk if you're taking sips of this thing, and especially if you're thirsty and you're chugging on. You look like a freaking alcoholic. So, and you should not care what other people think, but you still kind of do, and you don't want to look like the alcoholic of the group when you're out and about, okay? And having to, I'm just drinking water. Okay, dude, yeah, sure, it's just water, right? This bottle, though, looks like a water bottle, and it has a lot more water than that one. It's 12 ounces, 350 milliliters of water. This is the equivalent of a typical can of Coke. Yeah, not the monster size one, but your classic can of Coke. It's about the same amount of water here. Now, I've taken this one recently in a little outing with the family, walking quite a bit. Maybe nothing too extreme, but just good several hours of walking and doing stuff, going to visit a couple of places and so on. And I took this fanny bag. You're right, the fanny pack. This one fits quite nicely. I bought it specifically for that because I want to have a very minimal setting, and this was enough. I mean, I didn't take a single sip, mostly because my son, my youngest one, was, "Dad, I'm thirsty." Okay, there you go. Dad, I'm thirsty. Yeah, and this little bottle got me through the thing without an issue. My son had enough sips of water as much as he needed, and there was, even when we were having ice cream, there was enough for him and even my wife to wash their hands a little bit because ice cream. So those little common things, nothing extreme or anything, but it's just convenient to have water, and you're also covered if you make this part of your EDC. And it will depend on the routine that each one of us has. Maybe you're in your car most of the time and you have stuff there, so you don't need more than just a little bag with a little bottle of water, and that gets you covered for those little distances that you cover when moving away from your vehicle. And you have more stuff there in your car. Okay, guys, that's the kind of obsessive compulsive thing I go into, guys. I think about these things for years and sometimes obsess over it, but you can appreciate and learn from this and make your own decisions based on what I just shared with you. And what kind of lifestyle do you have? Do you go walking a lot every day? Rarely, mostly having a bag that is from your car to your parking and short distance? No, I walk all day in the desert. Okay, maybe you have different needs. Folks, if you want to learn more about all of this stuff, you have my book, Street Survival Skills, where I share quite a bit about my thoughts on EDC and such. There's dedicated chapters about this stuff, okay, in EDC, and about the economic aspect of preparedness, surviving the economic collapse. Very important given everything going on. Both available in Amazon, following those links there below, and I'll leave a couple links for the bottles if I find something you may want to consider. See you on the next one. Take care.